Good afternoon. Welcome back to Football League World TV. It's Friday afternoon, which means it's time for the weekend preview. The international break is over. The last one for the calendar year is done. We've got a full EFL fixture list to get into. I'm your host, George Dagless, and joining me this afternoon, Chris Gallagher and Marcus Ally. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Like you say, glad the international break's over, so I can get into the season now.
Yep, certainly plenty to come in the coming months. Marcus, how are you getting on?
Yeah, really well, thank you. I think QPR Luton could be a cracking game to kick off the weekend this evening. But I'm really looking forward to building the excitement for the return.
Great stuff. Right, anyone watching, wherever you are, do get in touch. We're across Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know your predictions coming up for this weekend in the EFL. Let's get straight into the action, talking Middlesbrough against Millwall, first of all. It's Chris Wilder's first game in charge of Middlesbrough, so we'll focus on them first of all. Obviously, Neil Warnock managing his last game at Middlesbrough before the international break, a 1-1 draw at West Brom. Chris, let's come to you first of all. What sort of impact do you think Wilder is going to have been able to have had during training in the last sort of week or so? And do you think we're going to see certain signs of his typical style that we saw at Sheffield United and places like that in this Middlesbrough team this weekend?
Yeah, I think we will. I think it's probably the best time for him to come in with the international break. He gets to work with most of the players. He'll have quickly, like, it's never ideal coming in mid-season, but if you could pick a time, that's probably the best time. And yeah, I think we know what he's about from his days with Sheffield United, and I think he will quickly get the team playing the way he wants. And I'd be excited if I was a Middlesbrough fan, definitely moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a great opportunity for Middlesbrough to try and build some momentum now under the new manager. Marcus, what did you make of the appointment when it happened, and what sort of new features do you think we're going to see in this Middlesbrough team tomorrow compared to what we saw under Warnock?
Well, it's a great appointment. I think Chris Wilder should be managing in the Premier League, to be honest, given the job that he did at Sheffield United and the football that he's played compared to the budgets that he's had at his disposal in recent years. Obviously, he's known for a 3-5-2 system, which is quite similar to what Warnock has implemented at Borough this season. But as Chris mentioned, I'm not expecting him to take too long to get his methods across. It's quite a nice time to have the international break, so he can have that time in between matches on the training ground to really drum it into the players what he requires from them. Still got a few injuries that will be a concern for Borough, but I'm sure he'll be able to shuffle people around and should definitely get a great performance from at the Riverside, which I'm sure will be a cracking atmosphere to welcome their new man.
Chris, do you expect Millwall to try and spoil the party a little bit? Obviously, it's probably a bit early to be having a party, but Middlesbrough fans are well behind this appointment. How are they going to go about trying to take out some new manager bounce this weekend?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the best game for Wilder. I think he's already touched on the fact that they'll be expecting to win, but Millwall are a very difficult side to play against. They're physical, defensively solid. So yeah, I don't think this is going to be easy at all. I think Millwall will probably enjoy knowing all the pressure is on Middlesbrough. So they'll enjoy going as an underdog, and I think it's going to be a close game, and I wouldn't like to call it, but yeah, and Millwall will definitely fancy their chances.
Yeah, certainly will. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to call it now, Chris, as he comes to the end of talking about this one. What's your score prediction?
I'll go for a narrow Middlesbrough win. I do think he will get a win on his first game, 1-0.
Okay, Marcus, what are you backing?
I'm going 0-0. I just think they're so evenly matched. I'm hoping we're going to get another opportunity to see Josh Coburn get a start. He's got 3 league goals from just 2 league starts this season, only 18 years old. It could be an exciting player to watch as the season progresses, but I don't think he's going to have much joy tomorrow, 0-0.
Yeah, I can see a draw myself, actually, between these two teams. I think they might just cancel one another out. I'm going to go 1-1 between Middlesbrough and Millwall. We'll switch our focus now to Fulham against Barnsley, and another new manager taking his first game in charge of his new club, Poya Asbaghi, in charge of Barnsley, replacing Marcus Schopp. Marcus, let's come to you with this one first of all. I guess a similar question to the Wilder one, really. What are you expecting from Barnsley this weekend? Are we going to see much new manager bounce, do you think, under Asbaghi?
Hopefully, in terms of energy levels, there can be an improvement and just more endeavour from the players. Obviously, Asbaghi's had much less time than Wilder to get his ideas across compared to sort of when the appointment happened in terms of the quick turnaround before this fixture. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm assuming that he's been recruited on knowing that he plays quite a high press. That seems to be a prerequisite to getting the job at Barnsley at the moment. I don't know a lot about his previous work, so it's going to be interesting how he sets them up, what kind of style he's looking to implement. But he really does have his work cut out at Fulham. It's not really a match to judge them. Even if they lose 3 or 4-0, I don't think we can start thinking, drawing any conclusions from it. So hopefully they can be more competitive than maybe we would have been saying that they would be a few weeks ago with how low the confidence levels were. It's a fresh slate for all the players, and hopefully they can grab their opportunity.
I guess, Chris, it's probably about the last game he would have wanted for his first in charge of Barnsley, isn't it? Fulham away, particularly how they sort of finished the last period of games before the international break.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, isn't it, for him, if we're honest. Then we've always the appeal of the Championship is that anyone can beat anyone, but it's getting harder to think that Barnsley can go to Fulham because the golfing class is just significant, really. Got Mitrovic up front, they got quality all over the pitch and a budget that dwarfs Barnsley. So yeah, it's as tough as he can get. So I suppose he'll be looking forward after this one, but get it out of the way and see how they do.
Yeah, certainly could be the case. Just before we get the score predictions, Marcus, we saw Alexander Mitrovic firing Serbia to a late win over Portugal not too long ago in the international break. Do you think there'll be any tiredness in the Serbians' legs, or do you think the sheer form he's in, he won't be thinking about that going into this one?
No, probably not. I think that might have even given him more energy. Just such a high in the international break. So yeah, I don't see that as an issue at all. We had some people tipping up Mitrovic hat-trick on the betting show this morning. So I think most people are still confident that he's going to be, going from strength to strength. Despite the 2-week break, we saw how strong Fulham were on coming back off the other side of the last international break. So Marco Silva will be hoping that they're all fresh and ready for this one. Barnsley, I'm sure Mitro will be confident.
Okay, let's get your score prediction, Marcus, first of all.
I'm going 2-0 Fulham. I think Barnsley can put in an impressive performance and keep it tighter than it would have been a few weeks ago, but Fulham have, as Chris mentioned, just got too much quality.
Yeah, I think 2-0 is a good shout. I think, Fulham have obviously got great attacking quality. Barnsley, there's bound to be more industry from them this week as they look to get the new tenure underway in some kind of positive note, but I do expect Fulham to have too much for them. Chris, are you making it a full house in terms of Fulham wins this weekend?
I think I'll go for 3-1 Fulham. Yeah.
Okay, we shall see what happens at Craven Cottage. Let's move to Sheffield United against Coventry. Chris, we'll come to you first of all with this one. You look at the table, and in many respects, you would have thought Sheffield United would be where Coventry are, and maybe where Sheffield United are, you'd expect Coventry to be. But that's not how it is currently in the Championship standings. Which of these sides do you expect to make more of a statement this weekend, though? Sheffield United will obviously be looking to try and put Coventry in their place a little bit and try and build some momentum and get themselves up the table. But on the flip side, Coventry are going to be looking at this one and seeing it as an opportunity, as when Fulham came to their place at the start of October, as an opportunity to show that they're genuine playoff and even promotion contenders this year.
Yeah, I think it's more important for Sheffield United, obviously, because of the table. I think the 7-point gap, you think there's a lot of games left, but you can't let that gap to the playoffs widen much more because you're giving yourself too much work to do. And I still think Sheffield United should be looking up, even though they're obviously closer to the bottom. But they've got the quality. But I thought they'd turned a corner about a month or so ago, but then the results have been far too inconsistent. So yeah, I think this is the game for them where they need to get up the table. For Coventry, you wouldn't say it's a free hit because they'll believe they can win every game, but they'll know the pressure is on Sheffield United. And like you say, they've proven they can get results against anyone. So I think they'll enjoy the role as an underdog as well.
Marcus, how do Coventry go about trying to get a result here? I mean, Sheffield United have underperformed, but we know they've still got plenty of attacking threat. How do Coventry go about, blunting the blades this weekend?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because there's so much pressure on Sheffield United, even though they're 17th and they're playing host to 4th place. I think the crowd could end up turning on Jokanovic in the next few weeks if something doesn't start to turn quite quickly. I think if Coventry can sit in the game and really frustrate them, to be honest, obviously, for me, Morgan Gibbs-White is the real main threat for Sheffield United in terms of creating chances and scoring them. There's been too much weight on his shoulders in trying to keep them push them up the table in the last few months. But if they can deal with him, then I think they will stop Sheffield United to an extent. Obviously, Coventry's away form has been nowhere near as good as their home form, so they'll be putting pressure on themselves to improve that if they want to keep believing that they can finish in the top 6. Victor Gyökeres hasn't scored in quite a while now. I think maybe 5 or 6 league games, but Matty Godden's been able to step up to that void, scoring a brace in their win over Bristol City just before the international break. So I'm sure that'll build confidence. The competition for places that Robins has got in that squad is really healthy, a really nice blend of youth and experience. So there'll be no lack of belief in the ranks. But yeah, I think if they can keep it tight, maybe to frustrate that home crowd at Bramall Lane with how their season's gone already, they'll be starting to look over their shoulders if they don't pick up a win in the next few weeks. So I think keep it tight. Coventry defensively have been poor at times on the road this season, so I think that's an area for them to focus on and how they can get a result. I feel quite confident that they'll be able to do so.
Okay, Chris, what's your score prediction for this one? Who are you backing and why?
Yeah, I can't really justify. I think Sheffield United will win just because of the importance. I think the quality, as we say, in the team is really high. I'm backing them to push up the table, so they have to start winning soon. So I'll go for a 2-1 Blades.
I can kind of share that. I could also not really explain why I feel like Sheffield United might win this one, but I just keep thinking every week they've got to at some point start get going, haven't they? So I'm sort of edging towards a Blades 2-1 victory as well. Marcus, who do you fancy here?
I'm big on Cov here. I'm going 2-1 Coventry. I think there's some fragilities there with Sheffield United. We saw Blackburn lose 7-0 to Fulham and then concede early against Sheffield United at home and then end up running out 3-1 winners. There's definitely something not right in the camp. I think there's players of a calibre that should be performing at levels that they're definitely not reaching this season. I think Coventry will be able to exploit that. So 2-1.
Okay, we shall see what happens there. One final Championship game to talk about on this weekend preview, and that's Swansea against Blackpool. It should be quite an attractive looking game. I think that this match between Swansea and Blackpool, two managers in charge that like playing football the right way. Russell Martin obviously at Swansea and Neil Critchley at Blackpool. He's been rewarded with a new long-term contract at Bloomfield Road until 2026. That was a story that we broke on Football League World earlier this week. Marcus, let's come to you first of all. Of the two managers, who do you think is doing a better job so far this season? And I suppose you have to look at Critchley and what he did last year as well for Blackpool when coming to that decision.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you have to say Critchley so far. They're above Swansea in the table only just, but given the expectations in comparison at the start of the season, definitely have to be the former Liverpool youth coach. They'll be optimistic about this trip to Swansea. I think it's, as you mentioned, who's done better out of the two managers. I think this is quite a good match to judge because Swansea have been performing well against some teams that are higher than them in the league of late. Got a win against West Brom at home. But a team like Blackpool, with some of the injuries that they've got at the moment, I think will probably be happy to just let Swansea have possession and see if they can hit them on the counter-attack. Not too dissimilar from what they did against Sheffield United. If you looked at the shot count from that game, that late Keshi Anderson goal was one of their only real quality chances. So I think they'll be confident that they can contain Swansea and allow them to just keep possession outside of areas that they can hurt them. Try and do a little repeat of what they did at Bramall Lane. As I said about the injuries, they are limiting them a little bit. It does feel like this run might have to come to an end at some point. I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be talking about at Blackpool as possible top 6 contenders. Neil Critchley will be confident his players are buying into everything that he says at the moment, and why shouldn't they be, considering how many wins they've managed to get in 2021. So it's going to be a really interesting encounter, and just the way it plays out and how the managers' strategies sort of battle off against each other.
Chris, I'll come to you with the same question. Obviously, Russell Martin's done a really great job at Swansea as well. We know the work Neil Critchley's done, winning promotion with Blackpool last season from League One. If you wanted to pick a manager for your football club, who would you go for of the two, and why?
Yeah, that is a tough one. I like Martin. I think he doesn't change, like Marcus touched on there, how Blackpool are capable of adapting and I suppose that is a positive. So it's not, you're not going to slag Critchley off because he's an excellent manager as well. But Martin seems to take his approach everywhere. It's like he won't change the way Swansea play. They always look to dominate, and I think that's like very admirable because it's tough to do, especially in the Championship. And he didn't, even if he doesn't get results, he sticks to the principles, and the players now are buying into it. Like, they're still inconsistent. There's a lot of areas they can improve, but I do think he's got the message across, and I like the way they try and play out at all the times.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the way that the two teams play. That they both play really nice football. This should be a really good game. I'm hopefully not going to jinx it for those in attendance and those that watch the highlights on Saturday night. I'm going to back a 2-2 draw between these two. Chris, what's your score prediction for this one?
Yeah, I was going to go for 1-1.
Okay, Marcus, what do you fancy here?
Yeah, same here, 1-1. I think Blackpool will be quite resilient in defence and will be able to take a point back.
Okay, we will see what happens there. Two sides that are obviously got playoff hopes at the moment. Let's move into League One. We're going to start by focusing on the picture at the bottom of the third tier. Morecambe and Fleetwood going head to head, or Fleetwood hosting Morecambe, I should say. I had a look on Google Maps to see whether it's a local derby, and although it's not a long drive in terms of distance, only 30 miles apart, it's over an hour because it's Fleetwood's well up in a corner of the coast in the northwest, and Morecambe's around the way. But anyway, stop talking about the geography of northwest England and get on to the actual game itself. Chris, let's come to you first of all. Two teams that are struggling down near the bottom of League One. Morecambe obviously started fairly well, and Fleetwood have had a pretty tough campaign, for the duration. Who do you think is, more at risk of the drop as things stand?
To be fair, I think they both are. I think this is a big game for Fleetwood with the home advantage, and with Morecambe, I think we all expected them to struggle. They got promoted, they lost the manager, and the budget really is just for them to be in the third tier is a massive achievement. And I think we all knew it was going to be a long, hard season. And they did start well, as you say, and now they've sort of dropped down, and I think both sides will be fighting until the end of the season to try and stay up.
Yeah, I guess the challenge, Marcus, for Morecambe particularly is, like we say, they did start this season fairly well, but now those losses have really kind of crept in and form has deserted them. They've got to try and find something with their limited resources. And obviously, January's coming, but it's still a bit far away. They've got to find something that's going to get them to January where they've still got a hope of staying up this year.
Absolutely, yeah. Winless in 6. It is defensively where I think the main concerns are. These two sides outside the top 9 in the division are the two high scorers in the other, what would that be, 15 sides? Quick maths off the top of my head. But yes, they are a little bit reliant on Cole Stockton in the attacking third, and then losing Sam Lavelle on deadline day to Charlton, the centre-back, where they didn't have time to replace him, I think has really hurt them as well. Obviously, just a tiny bit, I think 1 point above the relegation zone at the moment. They'll be wanting to make that last as long as they can. But yeah, Fleetwood, I think under Simon Grayson, they'll be desperate to get a win here. Morecambe, they are firmly looking over their shoulders after enjoying some optimism at the start of the season. But I think they can make a good fist of it and get themselves in a position where they are still competitive come January.
Just before we get score predictions from you, Chris, do you think there's an element of surprise really with how Fleetwood have been going so far this season? I mean, there's some good players in that team, in that squad, and Simon Grayson is an experienced manager that's done well in the Football League over the years. Do you think there's just an element of them underachieving at the moment, or do you think that this is pretty much where that squad should be right now?
No, I think they are underachieving, but I think when you look at League One as a whole, it's just such a tough league this season. There's so many good teams that you can find yourself down the bottom. So they do have the quality to get out of it, but I wouldn't be saying they should be a top half team or anything like that. They were one of the sides that you would expect to be near the bottom, and then if things go your way, injuries, results, then you'll find yourself in the bottom 4 because such is the nature of the league.
Certainly an important game for both teams down in the bottom of the third tier table. Chris, what's your score prediction here?
I go for 2-1 Fleetwood for this one.
Okay, Marcus, what do you fancy?
3-2 Fleetwood. I think this has got the potential to be a cracker. Two attacking sides that are not very good defensively, and a lot of stake, of course. I think Fleetwood would leapfrog Morecambe if they are able to get the win. So I'm going 3-2.
Okay, I'm going to fancy a 2-0 Fleetwood win, so make a full house of victories for the Cod Army. Up next, we're talking Wigan's game against Oxford United. I want to talk about Oxford first of all, Marcus. They're in 6th place now, Oxford United. What they've done this season, perhaps better than they did the last couple of years. They've started a bit better. We've seen slow starts for them in League One before, and they've managed, in fairness, to still get into the playoff places in the playoff race. But they're in a position now where they can potentially kick on even further and look to challenge the top 2. And that brings us obviously to this weekend against a Wigan side that's obviously looking to win automatic promotion this season. Is going along very nicely. Do you think the Yellows can make a statement, and how do they go about doing that this weekend?
I do, yeah. I think they'll take a lot of belief from their 0-0 draw at Ipswich last weekend. That's a team that isn't as high in the league as Wigan. Obviously, they're Essex in 2nd place, but Ipswich languishing outside the playoff places. I think come the end of the season, they'll definitely be in the conversation. So that might be a little bit of a blueprint for Carl Robinson. Oxford usually aren't as solid defensively, but they're able to make up for it in the attacking third. It's an interesting one. I think Wigan have lost 3 of their last 4 home games in the league, so maybe there's a little bit of a lack of confidence at the DW Stadium. But yeah, Oxford, it's nice that Robinson's had this continuity at the club. Must be one of the longest serving managers in the league. Along with some key players have managed to remain there over the course of the last few years. So I think that's why they're competing around the same place in the league they usually are, sort of 5th or 6th. But I think Wigan have fallen away a little bit since the start of the season, and just how intimidating they look like they could potentially run away with it. But yeah, Oxford should take confidence from the clean sheet at Portman Road. I don't think there's many sides will be able to say that at the end of the season, and maybe look to build from there this weekend.
I guess on the flip side from that, Chris, Wigan have got a chance to make their own statement and show that why they're a top 2 team and why Oxford aren't, and why the Latics should be considered as automatic promotion contenders compared to those below them.
Yeah, they'll be looking forward to this. I think, as you say, it's going to should be a good game, a close game, and it will be a marker for them. I don't think Wigan will be fearing many sides in this league because of the experience they've got. They've got a lot of players who have been at this level and have done it really. So that's not to say I think they'll definitely finish top 2, but they've got a good mentality, I think, within the group. And yeah, I think they'll be keen to get 3 points tomorrow to push on.
Okay, I'll go for a 1-1 draw, I think, between these 2 teams. Marcus, what's your score prediction for this one?
2-1 Oxford. A little bit of a shock. They've picked up 10 points in their last 4 games, and as I mentioned, Wigan struggling at home of late. So I think, yeah, they could be able to cause a little upset.
Okay, and Chris, how do you see this one go?
I'll go 2-1 Wigan. I think not much between the teams, but the Wigan just to edge it.
Okay, that's a nice spread across that game. We've all gone for a different result. We'll see who's right on Monday morning. Well, about 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon, even earlier than that. Let's drop into League 2. Let's talk Harrogate Salford first of all. Chris, let's come to you. You look at the League 2 table, and I think that the point you have to make is Salford, where many might have expected Harrogate to beat when they first come into the division. Obviously, they had a little bit of time now to acclimatise last year and this year. As for Harrogate, they're kind of where Salford would be expected to be. This season in League 2, but they're struggling at the moment. Do you think Gary Bowyer's under a lot of pressure right now?
I do, yeah. I think we all know the owners at Salford. We know the demands and the budget, and it's not good enough where they are. There's no getting away from it. They're 17th. They're not scoring enough. They're not winning enough games. It's just it's not good enough. And I would say you wouldn't say lose tomorrow or don't win and he's gone, but we get into that stage where every result's important for him on the basis of trying to keep his job.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Harrogate, Marcus, and they're kind of a pitch of what Salford perhaps should be looking to do. I mean, Salford, we know have chopped and changed quite a lot in recent times, and who knows, potentially Bowyer is going to be the next to fall foul of that. Whereas Harrogate seems to be building something pretty special at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm amazed Gary Bowyer's still in a job, to be honest. Harrogate looked great. It was an important 3-1 win at Walsall last weekend. They really were comfortable at the Bescot. They were winless in 4 before that and had dropped away from the automatic promotion places as a result. So that was a really key win. It just shows, I think, the strength of the National League, how we've got Harrogate, Sutton, even Forest Green competing right at the top of League 2, having only been promoted in the last sort of handful of years. So yeah, Harrogate will be confident about beating Salford, which, when you compare the budgets, is an incredible achievement in its own right. Yeah, I'm really surprised that Salford, they're usually quite trigger happy in terms of managers, but Bowyer remains. But yeah, Simon Weaver obviously has been at Harrogate for a very long time. It's a long-term project, and it looks like potentially that they'll be competing for a playoff place right up until the end of the season.
Certainly going well at the moment. EFL Lover has got in touch on YouTube. Luke Armstrong, what a player for Harrogate. Bet Salford regret letting him go. I'm sure they do, certainly this season, especially the form Armstrong's been in for Harrogate this season in League Two. Marcus, let's get your score prediction for this one.
I am going with 2-1 win for the Salfordites, Harrogate. I just think there must be low confidence for Salford to be so low in the division compared to the players that they got at their disposal. Maybe it will take a sacking for them to start climbing the table. 2-1 Harrogate.
Okay, yeah, I can't see anything but a Harrogate win myself. I'm going to go 2-0 to them. Chris, what's your score prediction here?
I think Salford will get a point. I think they're on their day. They're still a very good team. I think they're 1-1 for this one.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Salford would certainly be looking to try and make a little statement here and try and start climbing up that League Two table. One more game to talk about in the fourth tier, and that's Mansfield against Scunthorpe. And I guess, Chris, you look at Mansfield's form in the last couple of games, they've started to maybe slightly pick up, and this is a good opportunity to get another win on the board, put more space between them and the bottom two against a team that obviously is propping up the League Two table at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is a really big game for them. They've got back-to-back wins in the league. They obviously won at Sunderland in the FA Cup, which I think is obviously going to give you loads of confidence. And then you have a home game to Scunthorpe. This is the real big chance for them to, as you say, make a bigger gap from the bottom. So I think Clough will be desperate for the team to win this so he can just breathe a bit more easy and start looking up the table.
And I guess, Marcus, on the other hand, you've got Keith Hill now in at Scunthorpe. He's obviously looking to try and make them a bit more competitive than they have been so far this year. You look at the League Two table, and though it's not been good for the Iron, they're not exactly cut adrift. You'll look at this one and think, well, this is the sort of game that they need to get a result from to start keeping teams near them in the league, bringing teams towards them, and obviously getting themselves out of the drop zone as well.
Yeah, I think Neil Cox probably deserves a bit of credit for having Scunthorpe within touching distance, even though he got sacked. When you look at Scunthorpe's squad, it is really desperate, to be honest. They've got a handful of individuals that could probably be playing a little bit higher in the league. But apart from that, I don't envy Keith Hill's task at all. Obviously, Mansfield, jubilant, could make it 5 wins on the bounce in all competitions here. So it's going to be difficult. Obviously, as you mentioned, the likes of Oldham and Carlisle have been really poor this season. But with only 2 relegation places and Scunthorpe dropping like a lead balloon, they'll be thinking that, we can just be better than one other team and potentially stay in the league. So there was an improvement, a decent point against Salford last night, if you could call it that. On paper, it's a decent point at home. So they'll be looking to build on that. Keith Hill's done it at this level before, so maybe he can do it again. But I think, it would be an outstanding job if he is able to keep them in League Two this season.
Okay, let's get your score prediction here, Marcus, for this one.
I'm going 2-0 Mansfield, and then maybe the fans can dream of a revival and a playoff push. I was really impressed with their win at Sunderland in the Cup. They got decent players on paper. Rhys Oates is starting to hit his straps at the top of the pitch. John Joe O'Toole, of course, a bit of a EFL legend at centre back now. I think Mansfield are feeling pretty confident at the moment, and why shouldn't they be? It's got to be one of the easier fixtures on the calendar.
Okay, Chris, what are you backing here?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Mansfield, better team, better recent form. But I think I'll go with narrow 1-0.
Okay, yeah, no, I was thinking 1-0 Mansfield as well. So we're all backing a Stags victory against Scunthorpe this weekend. That brings the weekend preview to a close here on Football League World TV, and that's us done for the week on the channel as well. We'll be back Monday with the weekend review. I believe I'm hosting that one, so unlucky people watching. Do subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube, though. If you get the chance, it'd be greatly appreciated. Do like this video as well. That would help us out a great deal. Marcus, Chris, thanks for joining me this Friday afternoon. Thank you as well, wherever you've been watching, for joining us too. Enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll speak to you very soon.